All right, hello. This is a recap of the Peachtree Corners 2-3 race of Speed Week down in Georgia. You might have noticed that automatic rider back there just giving himself a quick cross, which we'll see him later, and it might have been a good idea. So just to introduce myself, my name is Eric. I am a kind of career Cat 3 at this point, and I live in Madison, Wisconsin, but I was able to come down to Georgia and do a couple Speed Week races. This Peachtree Corners one was a lot of fun, and I just wanted to talk through it and kind of give a recap of how my race went and maybe give a little bit of insight into, what goes on when your race doesn't really go according to plan. So, spoiler alert. In terms of, just my rider profile type, I've got, pretty good power, but also a lot of mass, let's say, which puts my, watts per kg are probably, middle of the pack for the Cat 3 field. And this is a 2-3, so it's going to be pretty tough. I think handling and kind of racecraft wise, again, kind of career Cat 3, so those could always be better. But I'm just here to kind of do the best I can and have fun and try and, see what kind of result I can put up. And then here we go. So mediocre clip in. That guy just yeets it off the line. But kind of clipping in, getting up. Top 10 is fine. But anyway, so you head down this hill, and you can start to see it here. But the pavement is a little wet, and there's paint everywhere, which makes this 180 turn here at the bottom particularly interesting. And here comes our friend in pink. Sits it right on the white line, does a sick drift, almost bumps into someone, but everyone kind of kept it together. But I was honestly busy watching that and trying not to, get caught in any spillover crashes if there was a crash, then really working on my own turn. So I kind of end up towards the back of the group here. But anyway, so this course, like you can see the profile, it's got a 180 at one end, and then you go down and you kind of do a little loop-de-loop around some parking lots, and you come right back and do the 180. But not only is there a 180, there is a big old hill right in the middle here. So we're coming up into the downhill, and you can see watching the speed, we end up hitting 40 pretty much every lap going down this. So that's pretty fun for sure. This is also my first time actually riding the course. I was able to walk it a little bit before the race, but I wasn't able to get out and pre-ride it. So I do feel, slightly nervous, especially kind of a little bit wet roads, all this paint, not knowing how these turns feel on a bike. And honestly, walking the course, I think everything looked a lot more intimidating on foot than it ended up feeling in the race. So, you kind of turn this corner, go up in these parking lots, and you can see the road surface is really, really fresh, which normally great. Love a nice smooth ride. With water on it, it just, I don't know, it wasn't bad by any means. It just kind of adds another little factor I was thinking about, especially as I'm kind of seeing and riding these turns for the first time. So then we're coming up here on what ended up being a really fun feature, which is this chicane that goes right, left, right again, and then it dumps you right into the bottom of the big hill. So walking this, I thought, there's no way you're going to be able to keep your momentum going this hill, and this is going to be brutal and so on. But you actually could take it very fast, and you could probably tell I touched the brakes there, which wasn't great. But again, it was my first time riding it. And in the pro race, actually, a lot of those guys were pedaling it, which was crazy to me. So that's just, one point for sticking around and watching, the pro races if you're not in them, to go just kind of see what's possible on a bike, or, what's possible on the course. So, the hill kind of sucked. You maybe saw, you just kind of go up it. It's not as hard as you can, but basically as hard as you can. And so now I'm kind of rolling onto the back here, which isn't a great idea, it turns out. And this 180 was really, I thought the hill was going to be the hardest part of the course, or kind of the defining moment, but this part was actually the part where all the big attacks went here. And also in the pro races, from the parts that I could see, it seemed like the majority of the attacks that really stuck were coming out of this 180, and it's because you're coming down the hill, right? So you have all this momentum. You're forced to scrub off speed by hitting the brakes, and then you have to turn, and then immediately you have this uphill that you come into with, you know, at like 10 or 11 or 12 miles an hour. So it's just a sprint to get back up to, you know, 20 whatever miles an hour. And I'm just gonna, you know, fast forward a bit. But you know, the plan was just kind of sit in the group and wait for the sprint. You know, I knew from the previous days that I certainly didn't have the fitness as a Cat 3 in this field to be, you know, driving any brakes or chasing any brakes back. You know, I'm here by myself. I don't have any teammates. So this was just, you know, the plan was just kind of sit and try to, you know, do as well as I can. And so then you can kind of see, you know, I'm not keeping super tight through a lot of these corners, which is something that, you know, I certainly can work more on and do better at. I will say another thing is that this is, you know, this is a Wednesday night race. This is at like 6 p.m. And I did find that doing one of these races after a work day, because I was, you know, I was working a 9 to 5 and then coming out here and doing this race, like there's something about the mental state I'm in after a work day that was different than like Athens, which was on Saturday. That one I just felt a lot more primed to really, you know, take corners fast, and I was always looking for ways to, you know, not hit the brakes when I was in the group and kind of pedal through corners where I could. And I really do think that kind of coming into one of these races after working all day, it kind of, it dulls that kind of edge a little bit. So this is my first time really doing, you know, an actual race on a weekday. I've done like practice crits and stuff, but yeah. So anyway, so now we're about 10 minutes into the race here. You can see the clock, and you just saw that guy attack on the right, and that guy was super strong. He kind of rolled a brake the previous day, and the brake ended up getting caught, and he still sprinted for second after getting caught by the field, which is pretty impressive. So anyway, so you can see him coming around the 180. So he really launched one there. And then the field, as I'm going to find here, is going to chase. And we go slow way down, you know, 9, 10 miles an hour. And I just stood up to kind of get back up to speed with everyone. And I was kind of surprised that I just didn't catch up to people, right? Like you saw, it was 800 some watts for a while, sitting at 500 watts on this uphill. This is still all uphill. And they're just riding away from me. So that was a bummer, right? And like, I don't know, looking at my heart rate, 185 is high. It's kind of probably a little above my threshold heart rate. So I'm working unsustainably hard here, and they are just riding away from me. So what ends up happening is like, there's these couple guys where like, well, let's chase a little bit. And you know, they're not that far ahead. You could see them the whole time, especially like the hill makes everything look close together, right? But as we're going up the hill, the moto of death comes by us, and that's kind of a sign that, you know, pack finish is not going to happen once the moto goes by you usually. So now here we are, you know, 10 minutes into the race, and gotten dropped essentially off the front group. Which, you know, kind of sucks. It's never the plan, right? You never are expecting that to happen or wanting that to happen. But now the question kind of is, what do you do? And especially in this case where like they are pretty close. Like that moto is right there, and this gray and yellow guy that I was kind of riding with for a bit, he's just powering away. And at this point, he's dropped me, so now it's just me all by myself. And you can kind of see it up in the distance here, but he actually passes the moto and gets back onto the group, which is, I don't know, kind of rare. You don't see that super often. But, you know, at this point, my thought process is kind of like, well, like one, like, this sucks. I was kind of hoping for a different outcome here. And two, I'm like trying to weigh the odds, like, you know, let's say if the peloton, are they going to slow down enough for me to catch back up, right? With how fast I'm going and how hard I'm working and how tired I am, like, can I keep an average speed high enough to catch them if they, you know, really just look at each other for a while? And I think, you know, after a lap or so of just kind of being by myself, I kind of realized, you know, I'm not catching them solo by any means. and I'm probably not catching them at all. So now it's like, you know, what do you do, right? It's some people, I think, especially kind of at the upper levels, it's like, well, you know, if I'm not in contention for a podium or anything, then why bother? You know, it's like the difference between, you know, 18th and 25th is kind of meaningless. But, you know, I'm basically a tourist here, and I'm just here to compete in whatever form I can. So the difference, honestly, between, you know, 25th and 18th or whatever, that means something, you know, because why wouldn't it? And so you can see here there's some guys come up behind me, and at this point I've actually dropped into the little ring for this climb just because I needed to not go up at 700 watts once. And so I just kind of chilled out. I didn't even notice them behind me until I heard one of them shifting, and I checked back and I was like, oh, like, did I get lapped? Because it seemed like they were coming real fast, but then I recognized this blue jersey guy. He was with me when we got popped off, so I was like, okay, this must be a chase group. So I was like, all right, you know, this is now the group I'm in, and we're just gonna ride this group, and this is now the race. So we're just kind of cruising here. This guy in the front, the gold helmet, he's a bit of a legend as far as I can tell, not being from the area, but he won Athens, the amateur race last year. He won on a single speed, which is remarkable. And I noticed he brought a geared bike to this particular race. But as you can see, as he goes by, like, he did not bring a ton of gears. Like, that cassette looks like it tops out at maybe like a 25 or something. So he's always riding on hard mode. Anyway, smash cut to the end of the race. The group I was in that caught me, we worked well together, and we caught a few more people, and so now we're coming to one to go. But first I want to shout out everyone who works in groups. You guys are awesome. There's nothing, I mean, getting dropped off the back of a crit sucks, but if you're able to kind of get with a group of guys who are willing to work with you and kind of keep it rolling fast, it makes it just a lot more fun. So anyway, we're coming up this hill, just kind of, I guess, kind of hard actually. But the guy, the black kit behind me, I believe his name's Andre, and I think he has a channel on YouTube here under the name Stash Power. And he was putting up videos all week from Speed Week, so go check him out. Especially, he had a good one from Spartanburg. And so, yeah, it was neat to ride with him. I'd seen some of his stuff that he was putting up earlier. Saw some of the stuff he posted later, too. So, all right, we got one to go, and, you know, again, this is the race for me, right? This is who I'm competing against. You know, it's not for the win. It's for maybe 15th place or something, but, you know, it's what I got, and it's why I'm here, so we're going to compete. And, you know, coming into this last downhill, I kind of was taking a half-hearted pull there. And this front rider on the high-vis bike, he's just going to send it out of this turn. And like I said, this is where all the damaging attacks are happening, because just sprinting out of this turn is so hard. And, you know, especially if you're a heavier rider like me, you know, the two things where weight punishes you in a crit are acceleration and going uphill, and this is accelerating up a hill, so it was really tough. And so we've got Andre up front, who's kind of chasing it back, and then he's going to pull off, and the 606 rider, his name is Talius. He's from Chicago, actually, so it was kind of nice to have another Midwesterner in this little group here. So he's going to give it a little dig, and then I'm going to come through because I feel like on the downhill I can, you know, kind of do the most damage to this guy's kind of gap on the downhill because I'm a lot bigger than he is. So kind of going down, freewheeling, just conserving a little energy. And my goal here is I just want to keep the gap small enough that I think I can sprint by him at the end. I don't, you know, need to close it down right now because I don't want to use up my energy and then get attacked by another guy in the group. So my goal is to keep it, you know, just big enough of a gap that I can get him at the end, but I'm not gonna like use up energy before the sprint. So You know, cruising to this corner, kind of pulling in. I think the gap right now, if you count it, is like 2.5 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. And at this point, you know, I'm tired. Like, the race has been hard, but I can feel that I have one sprint left in my leg. So we kind of send it down the chicane, which was really fun. I mean, this got to be probably my favorite part of the race. And then you hit the bottom and just go. And I'm able to get up to 1,400 watts, which kind of surprised me. It was a better sprint than I thought. I can see him coming back, and I'm just like, all right, here we go, let's get it. And then it flattens out, and this is where I should pass him because I'm still doing like 800 watts. And I get behind him for just a second, and I come up and I try and pass him, and I'm going, and he just guts out like 6 pedal strokes and beats me by a wheel. So props to him. Like, that was a major effort there. I mean, he was out there for probably 2 minutes by himself. So, yeah, that was, you know, the race. I ended up getting 14th, I think, which, again, you know, it's not a win, but it was fun, and that's why I'm here. So hopefully you got maybe a little something out of just watching me get dropped off a crit. And, yeah, that was a ton of fun. I would definitely come do Speed Week again if the kind of logistics worked out. Yeah. Cool.
A lot more fun in a little group off the back than just suffering solo.